Where to start?
Gosh, well, we can we can start with the fact that there is sunlight.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's sunlight coming in.
we're doing this in the morning, which we don't normally do, and I probably look pretty tired, but that's because I'm pretty tired.
What have you been up to?
Boy, yeah, no, tons of mixing and finishing up projects, and it's just been real crunch time on stuff, and it's been going good. I've been figuring some stuff out. I was telling you, I've been really trying to get things to be much more of a assembly line process where it's just kind of like
Right.
a lot of
Why?
things happen the same way every time when
Right.
you're trying to take music and mix together all these elements, the drums and the basses and the guitars and the vocals, and you're trying to make them all fit together. And you know, not to get technical, but I've been doing this crazy thing where I'm like doing these cascading levels.
Oh yeah. Of buses.
They're called buses. They're
Yeah.
groups, but basically like doing a little bit of dynamic control on an individual element of the music, and then that all goes to a group.
Like
Say all the guitars.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Or all the vocals. And then there's a little bit there. And then that goes to a group that is just the music, not the vocals. And then that gets a little it's just gotten kind of crazy because I was working on something late last night that is acoustic and very all real instruments and all these things, and like I was just the volume levels I'm hitting and everything is sounding like clean and not stressed or pushed, and I'm hitting like I didn't even notice it, and I was mixing like as loud as a metal record. Like it was like it was relative to the rest of the world. There's
Yeah.
like measurements that are like they're called LUFS, loudness units full scale.
Loudness units full scale LUFS. Okay.
Yeah. Debatable whether that means anything, but that's kind of the measurement we're all working with now. But I was like, checked my meters and I was like, oh my gosh, this mix is super duper loud. And it's kind of crazy how that cascading, like, you know,
That's pretty cool. Is that something that you made up or that you learned from somebody?
it's a hybrid of stuff that I've
Yeah.
learned from,
Because the exciting thing I've heard you talk about in the last week or so is how you are really starting to trust yourself to break rules
Well,
and do whatever.
and that's the hybrid thing because
Yeah.
I am doing stuff that is like there's all these things about anything that you do, whether it's cooking or whatever, and people are like, never ever do this, or like, don't cook a pot roast at 500 degrees because like it needs to whatever, and I've started just trusting myself, and I'm doing the equivalent of cooking the pot roast at 500 degrees sometimes. And you know
That means that you have reached expert level
I
of
mean,
mastery.
yes, I'm slow roasting the stir fry. Like I'm,
You're slow roasting the stir fry.
yeah,
And you're stir frying the pot roast.
yeah, exactly. I'm doing some stuff. Actually, last night, I was up super late, and I finally got there on figuring out this project. I'm I love talking tips. I'm normally very sherry about what's going on with audio and stuff. This one I might keep to myself because I am doing
Ooh.
something that is a do net. This is the. I think back in the 80s they messed up this recording, and it sounded cool in a good way, but it's something is very wrong with that recording. And I was struggling to match that recording, and so I did something very, very wrong. like literally like wrong, and it was like, oh, that's what that sound
Oh
is.
my gosh.
So I am.
You're finding real creativity in what people could think is a technical kind of work.
Yeah, I mean, I need, that's my biggest problem is I do view it as a real creative endeavor, and I need to get it more back into being a technical.
At least for stuff that it doesn't need to be reinvented every time.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time,
Right.
and that's how I was maybe, sometimes leaning towards was, trying to make every single project its, perfect shining thing, and
Yeah.
I do need to get it to where like it is just a technical process, like.
Or if you make it mostly a technical process, then you save tons of time and you can put creativity where it has the most bang for the buck.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's almost like what's that thing they talk about, the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get my process down to where it's like, I'm spending
Yeah.
20% of the time on what doesn't really matter. Who cares? This all
Yeah.
just goes where it goes.
Right.
And then, if we need to create like a signature vocal effect or something, let's
Yeah.
spend most of our time on that.
Right.
Rather than like, how do I get these drums to sound good?
No, you're right. You should have that question answered every time before you even start.
Yeah, which is, don't record humans playing drums would be step one.
Don't record humans playing
Yeah.
drums. Yeah, you're
Don't record humans at all. That is actually the Mutt Lang method. But anyway, yeah, it's been you have those plateau periods. You were talking about that with bass playing,
yes.
where you
Yeah.
just are kind of at a level, and then some stuff happens, and you finally make a jump up.
Yeah.
And I am very much I'm not on that next plateau, but I'm very much in the slope of that
That's great.
plateau.
That's great. I kind of sorry, were you gonna say
No,
something?
it's what keeps you wanting to do it is all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look for that next jump because the longer you do something, the longer those plateaus get.
That is that is absolutely true, and that's the downside.
Yeah. I'm in one of those, I think, right now with bass. I mentioned taking the word embedded into a gig with me 3 gigs ago. And since that gig, I have had just much better gigs. My mind has been more fluid and relaxed. And it really went well at a church gig I did on Saturday. It was a women's conference. That's why it wasn't on Sunday. It was a new drummer I hadn't played with before. His name is Todd Carrasco. Used to live in Denver, but now lives in Nebraska, in Sidney, Nebraska.
Which is not that far away, actually.
No, it's
Yeah.
like, I can't remember if it's 2 hours or 3 hours. But
Yeah,
it's,
but,
yeah. He said he got up at 1:00 in the morning to be there on time.
Well, that's
for
insane.
rehearsal. That is insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, we kind of hit it off, and he, I played well, and I was like in the groove, and I wasn't thinking much, and wasn't even looking at my charts that much compared to before. And he liked my playing enough that he made a point of not just saying, "Hey, great job," like everybody does after every show, but like got my number and was like, "Hey, do you like subbing?" And I was like, "I'm totally down to sub." And he said, "I'd love to put you on our sub roster for our band, and I'd love to introduce you to some other." He used to play for like 14 churches back before the pandemic when he lived here, and he said he knows a couple churches that are often looking for subs, and so he's already made an introduction. So
That is amazing.
yeah,
What a great example of how things work, though. I mean, it is just,
yeah.
networking is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and since I got myself into that more relaxed mode, I'm sure I looked 10 times more competent than when I was like tense and eyes on the chart. I probably didn't play all that differently. Although I did a little. My fingers were just doing some things. I was like, "Oh, that's a cool fill. I didn't think of that." Like it was literally in my fingers, not
Yeah,
my
totally.
brain.
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this. By the way, we should thank my mom because she helped us have a wonderful birthday dinner for you.
Yes.
It took us 2 months because stuff kept getting in the way, but we had a wonderful
Oh, it was
2.5 hour.
It was an adventure of a meal.
Yeah. And we were talking about this exact thing, and I'm so interested to. What we were talking about was that while you are a very intellectual musician, you also have another level of your musicianship where it's very
Oh, yeah.
kinetic and body related and movement related and
Right.
dance related, and that's kind of where you're like, and I've said it a million times, like your sense of time like blows my mind. It's so good, like and as someone who does not have a natural sense of time, like you have a natural
Yeah.
sense of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I'm so interested to see when you get a chance that trying on purpose to dance around more while you're playing,
While I'm practicing.
while you're
Yeah.
practicing,
Yeah.
to intentionally get out of your head
Yeah.
and just let it be
Yeah.
natural and
Yeah. That's what it's about.
I mean, that's ultimately what it's about,
Yeah.
That's so great that gig went as well as it did,
Yeah.
especially being as early as it was. And
Yeah. It was typically early. I mean,
yeah,
6:30 or 7. We had to be there at 7. So,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So another thing that's going well for us is progress on the stage performance book.
Oh, yeah,
We are
wow.
rocking on that thing now. And a big part of it is because I implemented a new no distraction policy for myself. So 2 weeks ago, I decided to take a month off of reading Reddit, the social media site Reddit, because I recognized that it had become an addiction, and so I wanted to break the addiction. So I took 2 weeks off. But then my addiction just moved over to Instagram, so I was just scrolling Instagram.
Right.
And then I decided, I need to stop all these texts, these emails, these Mighty Network DMs, these Facebook DMs, these Instagram DMs, the scrolling, the phone calls. Like, oh my gosh, I am overwhelmed with the number of reach of like open communication channels I have. So I did a sort of like a cold turkey diet on communication. So I'm trying out rules. I'm trying to like figure out how these work into my life, but so far they're going great. I am not allowed to check any of my communication channels before, it was 11, now it's 10 a.m.
Okay.
I usually start finding that like the work I've done in the morning is kind of wrapping up by 10. So it might move, but
yeah.
10 or 11. So one check-in for all that stuff, 10 a.m. One it was 3, I think I'm going to change it to 2 p.m. Just check in for texts. And then one was 7 p.m. Now it's 6 p.m. But basically, I'm only going to open my mind to the outside world 3 times a day.
Right.
You have an exception. You can get through. But
Right.
everything else is, I don't keep my email tab open anymore. I have Do Not Disturb on my phone 24/7.
Wow.
It is on all the time. You cannot call me. Well, I know I have phone coming through so that Kristen can reach me if needed, but I ignore my phone anyway, so it doesn't matter. But texts don't show up, DMs don't show up, notifications don't show up. Nothing is showing up, and oh my gosh, it's a huge difference. The first night that I did this, I stopped communication. I turned off communications at 7, and I was like, I can only use my phone for reading books.
Right.
Reading books that are like on Kindle or whatever between 7 p.m. and 11 a.m. And in that amount of time, I got 61 communication
Oh my
pings.
gosh.
I mean, they're not all texts.
Right, but emails.
21
yeah.
of them were emails, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rest were texts and DMs. And I was like, no wonder I've been feeling fragmented. Oh my gosh. So now, 3 times a day, I just like open it up for 15 minutes, boom, 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 get all my stuff done, boom, close it again. I can think again.
Two things. You've really inspired me, and I've been doing a lot more of the do not disturb mode, focus mode, or whatever, because you really do find that you're fragmented,
Yeah.
and you're trying to do something, but you're also trying to answer this text about
Yeah.
scheduling, and then this other person's texting you about scheduling, and then you're trying to get stuff done, but you're, and then, the other thing is, I think, and you've said it, like, instead of those communications being like, one more
Right.
thing.
Now I can't wait to communicate because I can only do it 3 times a day.
If you have the delayed gratification.
Right.
then you're like, oh, I can't wait to see what those people said, instead of like, what now? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's someone who texts you 7 times whenever they communicate. You can answer that in, like, that's one thing to answer now instead of 7. But anyway, back to the book writing. It has made a huge difference on our progress for book writing, because now I wake up in the morning and I've got 3 or 4 hours where I cannot use my phone for communication. And so my brain's like, what do I'm like raring to go. Like, let's do something. And so
Yeah,
I've been getting some great bass practice sessions in, and I've been getting some great book writing sessions in.
right. And I think we talked about it on a previous podcast. The new book writing software, we were working on it last night, where it looks like a book in the software.
Yeah. Oh, it makes it feel so real.
Night and day.
Yeah.
Like, even I was reading some of the stuff you've done, excellent work, and just like, man, but it looking like a book.
Yeah.
Just like you see it just completely differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
It's exciting. It's motivating.
Yeah.
We're making fast progress. I mean, we had that first draft done first quarter, but now that we dive in, we're realizing that a lot of the first draft is more of an outline, and a lot of it needs to be fleshed out with stories and exposition and really like clarification and examples.
Yeah,
So
right.
we're working on that now.
Yeah. And yeah, there's just and more topics are coming up. You know, we were talking about, you had the brilliant idea of doing a chapter on advice about advice.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of taking it and running with it, but that's something that all musicians run into, is like, if you start getting your stuff out into the world, people are going to start commenting on it, for better or for worse. And it's important for performers to know how to kind of silo those pieces of information.
Right.
And
Right.
and there are some things you should say, hey, thanks so much, that's very nice of you to say,
Including things in our book.
including things in our book. And I think that was something you you know, like, hey, everybody's a butterfly, everybody's a snowflake. We're all super original, you know. And I'm gonna change this line because it's not strictly true, but the line I came up with last night when I was writing was, you know, the only infallible thing is your authenticity. And that's maybe a strong way to word it, but like, you got to take everything with a grain of salt, except for the stuff that is like deeply in your heart and is like, no, that's part of the reason I'm doing this to start with, so I can't change that.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, again, for better or for worse, I mean, it's all you know.
I think we should write a book every year. I think the
Maybe
more
we
the
should.
more we write, I think the more we're gonna have to say.
We talk so much, it's like we might as well just...
I could see that being a thing. Like, for the next 10 years, we write a book a year.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Throwing it out there now. Who knows? That's not on the plan yet.
Yeah, I've got one in the chamber about gain structure. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be thrilled to read that. It's going to be...
You can just self-publish that one. You can pay for the book to be printed whenever someone buys one.
That's going to be like your book you were looking at, like How to Travel Dimensions or whatever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, totally different topic. This is about the studio. So I'm trying to envision what performance I will be 10 years from now. And if you're familiar with business concepts at all, typically the best companies are led by a visionary who has the big ideas.
Right.
And a separate person who's an integrator who knows how to get stuff done.
Yes.
And I am a strong integrator. I am not a visionary.
Yeah,
Just by habit. That's just the way I think. I'm
Yeah.
a spreadsheet girl. I'm a step-by-step girl. And being an integrator makes it very hard to be a visionary, because every time I do think of a big idea, before the thought even takes hold, my integrator side is like, that would be so hard. Don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so I was looking up on Amazon, like, books on how to become a visionary. Like, I needed this skill.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
The fourth result was how to be a dimensional time traveler.
How to be a dimensional time traveler.
So I got it because it was free on Kindle. I'm gonna read it.
Which I thought was a good solution, because you can if you read that book, you can then travel to another dimension where you are a visionary.
There we go.
And then you can just steal your ideas from another dimension and bring them back to this.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, I didn't expect that level of workaround, but but it seems like it would work.
There is a universe out there where I'm a visionary.
Yeah.
Because there are infinite universes. So,
Just
yeah.
go there, knock that
Okay.
Adrian over the head, and
Sounds like a plan.
yeah. Oh boy. So, what else has been going on this week? Let's, we.
You gonna say? Sorry, we're both talking at the same time.
No, I don't.
We're
know
having the same thought at the same time too. I bet.
I bet we are. What? Go ahead.
The recording session on Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. That was funny because you were playing me the tracks that I was gonna sing backup on the way up to record,
Right.
and I was like, "Wow, this guy is good."
Oh yeah. Right. That's
He
exactly
must,
what I was.
he,
Yeah.
He's got some Cody. He must have trained with Cody.
Right.
There's definitely some Cody influence in there.
Right.
And then after a while, you were like, "No, this is Cody."
Yeah. And the same thing happened to me, which is exactly why we were on the same page. It took me around 5 listens, because I got the material before you did. I was like, wait. I had the exact same thought. I was like, this
It's a
vocal
good
sounds
singing, yeah.
really good. And then it was like, oh, that's Cody. And it was Cody, but he was doing such a good job of like singing to the genre and
Yeah.
not doing his like stylized, this is my personal whatever. And it's so funny because it's not like really affected or really like, it's not like he's doing an impression of someone else.
Yeah, no, it's more like he's just dialing something back.
Right.
He's
And he was
settling
just
in.
doing,
Yeah.
and it was a different style and he was
Yeah.
just kind of singing to that kind of like, it wasn't really Steely Dan. I don't know.
Would it be adult alternative kind of?
Well, I mean, yeah, it was just kind of rock, but
Yeah.
jazz influenced rock or something like that. But boy, neither of us recognized him right away.
I
It was
know.
really funny, and I almost texted him and was like, "Do you know who's singing this?"
No way.
And then I realized, oh, it's Cody, because I had the same thought, like this must be somebody who's studied with Cody. But anyway, what a fun session! I mean, it
Yeah,
was just a gentleman named Patrick Rooney. He's got stuff on the YouTubes and the Spotify's already, but we went up there and I played guitar on 3 songs and you sang on 2.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, he just runs his sessions like
Oh, so well run.
so well run and
Quick and efficient. And
very quick and
he
efficient.
knows what he's doing. And
And it was so great to have someone have a real vision. I said that to
Yeah,
him when we
yeah.
were like finishing up. Like it's much harder when someone's like, I don't know, just
do what you do.
give me I just want some guitar. But he was like very like I not like here's the notes to play or sing, but like here's what I'm envisioning, and you're just like, oh well, if you tell me kind of
It was the perfect level of his of I like he might give an idea by like singing something, maybe something like like that, and I'm like, that means like this is what's happening at this point in the song,
Right.
and it's communicating this feeling. I'm like, okay, I know exactly what you want.
Right, and he was really on top of knowing. This seems like a crazy thing to say, but he was really on top of knowing what his songs were about. Like,
Yeah.
here's the story
Yeah.
that I'm trying to tell, and at this point in the story, here's what's happening. So try to reflect that. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh well, if you tell me that, then like,
Yeah.
it's just like that's.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and a lot of times songwriters might be brilliant songwriters, but they're just not great at articulating like this is what I'm trying to communicate here. They're just like, well, this is just I don't know, this is what I wrote, and it's it can be equally great and brilliant, but they just don't have that kind of grasp of anyway, it was just fun. I mean, we just and it took like, man, we were fast. I mean,
I think once we got started, it was probably 3 hours of recording total between your 3 songs and my 2 songs.
yeah,
It was fast.
it was really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It was a fun Sunday.
Yeah, it was easy, and then we went to that wonderful dinner.
Yeah, L5.
Yeah, we should shout out L5.
Well, they're our sponsor this week.
They are our sponsor this week, and again, I'm gonna appreciate. You know, they used a garbage bag, but it's so great when our sponsors contain the cash in some way.
It is a little windy today. It would be blowing all around the neighborhood if they just dropped a dump truck full of dollar bills on our front lawn.
Yeah, no, it was so nice that they just threw it in a garbage bag.
How is this still funny?
I don't know. Is it funny? I don't know.
I'm endlessly entertained by your jokes. They remain funny to me forever.
The key is repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah, we had a great week. Coming up this weekend, or this week. Gosh,
Is this the week of gigs?
this is not the week of
good.
gigs. We've got a
Phew.
big crazy one, but
Okay.
2 weeks away. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we got a little bit of a,
Welcome break.
yeah, a little bit of a welcome break. Starting to fill up though. I was just saying to you last night, we're starting to already get into that summertime thing where you're like looking at the calendar and you're like, what weekends are even open?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Well, you're trying to get that client
Yeah.
from Wyoming back down for a weekend to
Yeah.
finish her album, and you're having trouble finding a weekend
it's just
at all.
I mean, it's a great problem to have, but and you were just saying it was so hard to imagine just a couple of years ago getting back to this level of busy, and here we are again.
Yeah.
So but that's life. Thank you guys so much for listening and or watching, and we're sponsored as always by Performance High
Voice and Music Studio,
and L5,
the restaurant.
the restaurant.
On
Yeah,
level 5.
On level 5.
You know, like the letter L and the number 5 that you hit, like, on the elevator button?
oh my gosh, and that cracked me up so much that you've all been in elevators, and there's the row of buttons, and they had the numbers, and then to the right of the numbers was the actual button that you push, and the 5 was completely worn off. The paint on the 5 was completely worn off because enough people had apparently hit the number 5 and not the button to the right of the 5.
Yeah.
So
To be fair, usually in elevators, the button has the number on it.
to be absolutely fair, but it cracked me up that it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this blank square with a rubbed off 5 because everyone had been hitting the thing. Anyway, again, thank you to the folks at L5, and we'll expect another garbage bag next week.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye.